didn't come here by accident. Something inside you, something quiet, something tired, something that has been watching from the shadows of your own life, it brought you here. Because you already know, you already feel it. The way people speak to you, the way they dismiss you in rooms where you should matter, the way they take from you without asking, the way they interrupt your sentences, minimize your opinions, ignore your presence as if you were furniture in a room they pass through every single day without looking at. You've told yourself it's them, and maybe it is. But here is the truth that no one dares to say out loud. The way people treat you is not an accident. It is a mirror, and it is reflecting something you haven't yet had the courage to face. Let me ask you something. Not the polite version of the question. Not the version that lets you off the hook. The real one. When was the last time you spoke to yourself? Not to someone else. Not to a friend who needed you. Not to a stranger who asked for your help. But to yourself. With the same gentleness you give so freely to everyone else. When was the last time you looked at your own reflection and felt something other than doubt? You know what most people do? They wake up every morning and immediately begin a war against themselves. They catalog every flaw before the sun has risen. They rehearse every failure before the day has begun. They make promises they never keep, not because they are lazy, not because they are weak, but because somewhere deep inside, there is a voice that whispers something dangerous. You don't deserve the things you want. And the terrifying part? You've believed that voice longer than you've believed anything anyone else has ever told you. You've let it live rent-free in the architecture of your mind. You've let it redecorate your self-perception. You've let it write the story of who you are, and then you've gone out into the world and handed that story to other people, and you've been confused when they started reading from it. But this is psychology. This is not poetry. This is not metaphor. This is how the human brain actually works. People are extraordinarily sophisticated readers of invisible signals. Robert Greene understood this. The masters of human nature understood this centuries before psychology had a name for it. People don't treat you based on who you are. They treat you based on who you believe you are. And your belief, no matter how private you think it is, leaks. It leaks through the way you hold your posture when someone raises their voice. It leaks through the speed at which you abandon your opinion the moment someone pushes back. It leaks through the way you apologize for existing, for needing, for wanting, for occupying space in a conversation, in a room, in a life that is yours. You think you're hiding it. You're not. You never were. There is a person in your life right now who treats you in a way that makes your chest tighten when you think about it. Maybe it's someone you love. Maybe it's a colleague. Maybe it's a family member whose approval you've been quietly bleeding for. You've told yourself the problem is their cruelty, their selfishness, their inability to see your value. But here's what psychology reveals, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. They saw your value precisely. They measured it against the price tag you placed on yourself. And when you kept lowering the price, when you kept accepting less, when you kept showing up after being dismissed, when you kept softening your boundaries, when you kept explaining yourself to people who never asked for an explanation, they didn't raise their offer. Why would they? You already told them what you were worth. There is a concept in social psychology called behavioral congruence. It means that people synchronize their treatment of you with the dominant emotional narrative you project. This is not about confidence in the shallow sense. This is not about standing taller or speaking louder or dressing differently. Those are surface corrections on a deep structural wound. This is about the internal architecture of how you relate to yourself. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the hidden self that operates beneath your conscious awareness, making decisions you think you are making consciously. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the part of you that has internalized every moment someone made you feel small and then made it permanent. Every time someone humiliated you and you stayed silent, your shadow recorded it as acceptable. Every time someone took from you and you gave more, your shadow recorded it as normal. Every time you shrank yourself to make someone else comfortable, your shadow recorded it as necessary. And then that shadow began to act on your behalf, without your permission, without your awareness, scripting your interactions, lowering your expectations, rehearsing your retreats before conflict could even begin. You are not weak. You were programmed. And the programmer was often someone you loved, or someone whose love you desperately needed. Here is where it becomes even more precise. The human nervous system, the autonomic response system that operates beneath thought, communicates constantly with the people around you. This is not mysticism. This is neuroscience. Psychologists call it co-regulation. Your nervous system speaks to their nervous system before a single word is exchanged. Your level of internal security, the quiet confidence with which you inhabit yourself, is transmitted through micro-expressions, vocal tone, breathing patterns, eye contact duration, the pace at which you speak, the space between your words. Secure people, people who have done the deep work of self-respect, command a different quality of treatment automatically. Not because they demand it, not because they perform it, because they embody it. And dysregulated people, people who have made peace with their own discomfort, who have normalized their own suffering, inadvertently signal permission. Permission to be taken lightly, permission to be interrupted, permission to be loved conditionally, permission to be forgotten. You are not sending these signals consciously, but you are sending them. And the world is receiving them with terrifying accuracy. This is why the most psychologically powerful people in any room are often not the loudest. They are the stillest. They are the ones who speak less and mean more. They are the ones who never rush to fill the silence with explanation. They are the ones who never justify their presence, never apologize for their perspective, never bend their reality to accommodate someone else's discomfort. They have learned, at great cost, through great pain, the most dangerous truth in human psychology. Your self-perception is the foundation upon which every relationship in your life is built. Change the foundation and the entire structure must shift. Now let me show you something that most people spend an entire lifetime avoiding. The people who treat you the worst are not your enemies. They are your teachers. Not because suffering is noble, not because pain is deserved, but because the specific way that people hurt you reveals, with surgical precision, the exact place where your relationship with yourself has collapsed. The person who constantly dismisses your ideas is revealing your inability to stand behind them. The person who takes without reciprocating is revealing your belief that love must be earned through sacrifice. The person who disrespects your time is revealing that you have not made your time sacred in your own eyes first. The person who lies to you repeatedly and whom you keep giving second chances is revealing the depth of your terror at what emptiness would feel like if they were gone. This is not blame. This is cartography. This is a map of the interior wounds that are shaping your exterior world. And maps, no matter how painful they are to look at, are extraordinarily useful things. Because you cannot navigate out of a place you refuse to acknowledge you are in. Here is the hidden truth that Robert Greene circled around in every book he ever wrote. The one beneath the strategies, beneath the laws, beneath the seduction and the power. People are drawn to those who have mastered themselves, and they prey upon those who have not. This is not cynicism. This is human nature at its most fundamental. We are social creatures with ancient animal instincts. And those instincts, no matter how sophisticated our civilization, still operate. They still scan the social environment for signals of self-possession. They still calibrate behavior based on perceived hierarchy of internal worth. The person who knows exactly who they are, who has faced their darkness and their light and made peace with both, radiates something that no strategy, no manipulation, no performance can replicate. And the person who is still at war with themselves, no matter how successful, no matter how beautiful, no matter how accomplished, carries a wound that people can smell. Not always consciously, but always accurately. You have been trying to change how people treat you by changing your behavior. You've tried being more agreeable. You've tried being more assertive. You've tried being more understanding. You've tried being colder. You've tried being warmer. You've tried explaining yourself better, communicating your needs more clearly, choosing your words more carefully, and nothing has fundamentally changed. Because you changed the words but kept the wound. The treatment will not change until the self-perception changes. This is the law. This is not motivational philosophy. This is psychological architecture. If this is reaching something inside you that has been waiting to be reached, pause here, save this, share this with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe, because what is coming next may be the most important thing you hear today. And stay, because the transformation begins exactly here. So how does it change? Not with a declaration, not with a morning routine, not with a list of affirmations spoken to a mirror. It changes in the dark, in the quiet moments where no one is watching, in the private decisions that no one ever sees, in the silent choices you make about how you speak to yourself when the world is not listening. This is where the real work happens, and almost no one goes there willingly. The first shift is this. You must stop outsourcing your self-perception to other people's behavior. This sounds simple. It is not. Because from the moment you were born, you were calibrated to read the faces of the people around you, to understand your own worth. You watched your parents' expressions to know if you were loved. You watched your peers' reactions to know if you belonged. You watched your teachers, your lovers, your colleagues, and you used their responses as a barometer of your own value. This is human. This is normal. But at some point, at the precise moment you decided to call yourself an adult, you were required to make a transition that almost no one makes cleanly, from borrowed self-perception to constructed self-perception. From I am worth what they reflect back to me, to I am worth what I have decided in the privacy of my own mind, in full knowledge of my own darkness and light that I am worth. This is the most difficult psychological transition a human being can make, and it requires something terrifying. It requires you to sit with yourself without distraction, without scrolling, without the noise of other people's emergencies drowning out your own interior silence, and to witness yourself, not to judge, not to fix, not to perform, simply to witness, to look at the patterns of your choices and understand, without cruelty but without flinching, why you have chosen what you have chosen, why you have accepted what you have accepted, why you have loved the people you have loved in the ways that have sometimes destroyed you. This is emotional intelligence at its most sophisticated. Not the management of emotion, not the suppression of emotion, but the literacy of emotion, the ability to read your own interior landscape the way a master navigator reads weather patterns, and to understand what each storm is telling you about the terrain. Your anxiety is not your enemy. It is information. Your loneliness is not your punishment. It is a signal. Your anger, the anger you have been swallowing for years because someone told you it was ugly, that anger is not a character flaw. It is a compass. It is pointing directly at the place where you have been violating your own values in order to maintain someone else's comfort. When you stop reading that compass, when you keep suppressing that signal, you don't just harm yourself. You send a message to the world. The message says, my boundaries are decorative. Push through them. And the world, in its ruthlessly efficient way, complies. The second shift is detachment, not coldness, not indifference, not the emotional armor that some people mistake for strength. True detachment, the kind that actually transforms your relationships and your power, is the ability to care deeply about something without allowing your sense of self to depend upon its outcome. You can love someone fiercely without needing them to love you the same way to know you are worthy of love. You can pursue something with complete intensity without collapsing when it does not arrive on your schedule. You can give without keeping score, not because you are saintly, but because your internal economy is not dependent on external deposits. This is what silent power looks like. Not the power that announces itself, not the power that demands recognition, the power that simply exists, complete, unperturbed, unassailable, and allows other people to orbit around it without requiring anything from them. Weak people react. Powerful people disappear. They don't argue their worth in rooms that have already decided to undervalue them. They simply remove themselves, calmly, quietly, permanently, and allow the silence of their absence to speak the language that their words could not. The third shift is perhaps the most counterintuitive. It is the cultivation of empathy, not toward others, but toward yourself, not self-pity. This is important. There is a vast psychological difference. Self-pity says, look at what was done to me. Self-empathy says, I understand why I responded the way I did, given what I knew, given what I had, given what I was, and now I will choose differently. Self-empathy is the mechanism by which change becomes sustainable. Without it, every attempt at self-improvement becomes another act of self-punishment. Every failure becomes more evidence for the prosecution that has been building a case against you since childhood. With it, with genuine compassion toward the version of yourself that learned to survive in environments that required you to be smaller than you, where something extraordinary happens. The charge goes out of the wound. And when the wound no longer has charge, it no longer controls your behavior. And when it no longer controls your behavior, you stop sending the signal. And when you stop sending the signal, the treatment changes. Not because you demanded it, not because you explained it, not because you confronted it, because you changed the source. I need you to understand something. The life you are living right now, the relationships you are in, the treatment you are receiving, the patterns that keep repeating like a song you cannot stop hearing, they are not permanent, but they are precise. They are the exact external manifestation of your current internal reality. This is not cruelty. This is not blame. This is the most liberating truth in all of human psychology. Because if the external is a reflection of the internal, if the world is truly treating you as you treat yourself, then you are not a victim of circumstance. You are the author of it. And authors can rewrite. Think about the most powerful person you know. Not the loudest, not the most aggressive, not the most financially successful. The one who makes you feel something when they walk into a room. The one whose opinion silences a conversation, not because they demanded silence, but because something in them commands it. The one who seems untouched by the chaos that consumes everyone else. The one whose presence feels like a different quality of reality. What is it? What is the thing you cannot name? It is this. They have made complete, unconditional peace with who they are. Not perfect peace. They are not pretending their flaws do not exist. They are not performing confidence over a fracture. They have genuinely, at great personal cost, through great personal darkness, made their peace. They like themselves, not arrogantly, not performatively, quietly, privately, completely. And that quiet, private self-acceptance radiates outward with a frequency that is more powerful than any strategy, any manipulation, any carefully constructed persona. You feel it because your nervous system was built to detect it. And you are drawn to it because somewhere, beneath all the conditioning, beneath all the noise, beneath all the years of evidence that seem to prove otherwise, you know that frequency is available to you. You know it because you were born with it. It was taught out of you, and it can be learned back in. You are not broken. You are not damaged beyond recovery. You are not destined to repeat the patterns that have shaped the years behind you. You are in this moment a human being who has awakened, perhaps partially, perhaps uncomfortably, to a truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. The treatment will change, but only after the self does, not the performance of self, the actual self. The one that sits in silence when the world goes quiet. The one that makes choices no one will ever see. The one that either keeps the wound alive or begins, slowly, painstakingly, courageously, to close it. The people who will hurt you least in your future are not waiting for you to become more strategic, more guarded, more defended. They are waiting for you to become more real, more present in your own life, more honest about your own worth. More willing to enforce, not with anger, not with ultimatums, but with the quiet, devastating power of simply not accepting less than you deserve, the standard of how you allow yourself to be treated. Because the people who are truly for you, the ones who are capable of meeting you in the depth where you actually live, they will not be frightened by your wholeness. They will be relieved by it. They have been looking for someone who is not performing, and they will find you the moment you stop. Soft but powerful Cliti music fades slightly. Narrator's pace slows to its most intimate. You have been seen in this video. Not the version of you that you show to the world. The version that lives in the quiet. The version that watches everything and says very little. The version that has been waiting, patiently, painfully, for someone to finally name what it has been carrying. I'm asking you to do one thing. Not a massive change. Not a dramatic transformation beginning at sunrise tomorrow. One thing. Treat yourself today, tonight, in this hour, with the same dignity you would give to someone you truly respect. Not perfectly, not permanently, just today. And then tomorrow, again, and watch, slowly, undeniably, how the world around you begins to reorganize itself around that new frequency you are choosing to emit. If this awakens something in you, subscribe, share it, and come back, because every video here is a conversation with the part of you the world hasn't met yet. Here is what I will leave you with. Not inspiration, not encouragement, not a list of steps. The truth, the most haunting, uncomfortable, liberating truth that human psychology has ever produced, and the one that will sit with you long after this ends. No one has ever treated you worse than the version of yourself you have agreed to be. Every person who dismissed you was simply following the script you handed them. Every relationship that diminished you was simply honoring the value you set. Every moment you felt unseen was simply the world responding to the version of yourself you had decided, quietly, privately, painfully, was the only one worth showing. But you are reading this with new eyes now, and you cannot unread what you now know. And the version of you that wakes up tomorrow, that version has a choice that yesterday's version did not fully understand. Not to be perfect, not to be fearless, not to be loud or strategic or untouchable. Simply to look in the mirror without flinching, without performing, without apologizing, and to decide that the person looking back deserves exactly what it has always deserved. Your respect. First, before theirs. Always before theirs. Because the world will always, without exception, without mercy, without hesitation, treat you exactly as well as you have taught it to.